Howdy, howdy do, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
My name's Maria.
My name's Mark.
And my name's Jordan.
And welcome to episode 300!
Yay!
Hey, Who fans, welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. It's great to have you all here for another week and another episode. And a very special episode it is this week. Quite unbelievably, it's episode number 300. This is insane. It feels like it's a bit of a mini milestone for us because we, when we started the show donkeys years ago, we thought, oh crikey, we'll give this a run for a little while, see how it goes. And here we are, a few years later. Episode 300. So it's thank you all so much for coming back and listening. Those of you that have just discovered the show and have just jumped on board, welcome aboard. It's great to have you here. Those of you that are long time listeners, it's great to have you back and listening again. So thank you all for joining us. And we have a really special show this week because we've done away with, well, as you know, we've done away with Dalek Tat. We booted him out a few weeks ago. But we're not going to do any reviews or anything like that. What we have got, as you've probably guessed by now, we've got our awesome writing team who put out our reviews and articles on our website regularly. These guys are so cool, so we had to get them on. This was the only thing that we said, like when Adam and I were talking about if we were going to do anything for 300, it was like there's no other option. We just have to get these guys on and chat about Doctor Who because these guys know Doctor Who far more than me and your average Doctor Who fan and whatnot. So it was the only option, the only thing we were going to go with. So a huge thank you to you guys for coming on board and wasting an hour or so of your evening to go and waffle about Doctor Who. So without further ado, let's get on to these guys. So Maria, ladies first.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you.
Your favourite Doctor or / era of Who?
Okay. I suppose I would have to go with probably Tom Baker / Peter Davison because that was my era growing up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Favourite story?
Oh, that's a really hard one. I have to go with Earthshock. I have to be honest.
Oh.
I just love that story.
Okay. Nice. Mr. Mark Donaldson. Hello, sir. Hello. Favourite era? Favourite era?
It's tricky, isn't it? Because I grew up in the wilderness years, so I didn't have my own Doctor Who era, as it were. So I think in my heart, part of me thinks that, I can just have a broad overview and just pick one that best suits me. So I'm going to go the McCoy era for me. I think because it was the closest, because I was born in 85, so it's the closest Doctor Who I think I get to kind of my kind of growing up. So yeah, I would say kind of the McCoy era for me. Cool.
Favourite story?
Well, let's go favourite story from that era to make it easy. Curse of Fenric, I think, is an all-time classic.
Fenric.
So I'm going to go with that.
Nice. Mr. Jordan, hello, buddy.
Hello.
You all good?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Yeah.
Good. Favourite era?
Favourite era? I'm probably going to have to go for the Peter Davison era. Although I was, Christopher Eccleston was like my first Doctor. David Tennant was the Doctor I vividly remember watching growing up. I don't know. There's something about Peter Davidson's era that I love. I love Peter Davidson's era of Doctor Who. I don't know what it is, but
that's cool. And your favourite story?
Favourite story? I'm going to go for a bizarre one. I'm going to say Castrovalva is my favourite story.
Interesting. Nice.
Again, another thing. I don't know what it is about it, but I just love that story. I don't know what it is about it, but...
That's cool. Nice. Okay, and I think listeners will know Adam's favourite era. I think we all know, don't we, that it's the...
Well, I don't know, so how do you know?
The Jodie Whittaker era of Doctor Who. No,
you.
I think I should know this. We're doing this long enough together. I think it's Tom's era, right? I think you're most of the time.
I think, yeah. I think Tom's my favourite Doctor, but I think on reflection, I think it might be the McCoy era that I love the most.
Yes.
It may not be like the best era in terms of stories and stuff, but it's the era that I love watching the most. Like, I just love the McCoy era. So yeah, but Tom and McCoy are sort of between the two, I guess. Yeah, I think they both got really strong stuff in their era. Obviously, the Hinchcliffe era is phenomenal, but yeah, the McCoy one, because it's got so much fun, and it brought me back into Doctor Who. I kind of drifted out a bit with Colin, as much as I love Colin, but his stories were starting to lose me. McCoy brought me back in with the fun.
Nice. This is amazing.
That's interesting, actually, the Baker McCoy link, because I had this discussion recently that I feel like Tom Baker and Liz Sladen and Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred are the sort of doctor and companion that they feel like friends, because you can feel the relationship between the actors. And I think in that interim period between Liz leaving and Sophie Aldred coming in, there's a lot of doctors and companions that character-wise, maybe not actor-wise, but certainly character-wise, don't get on. And I think that's a bit grating for me. So I'm sorry, I'm the odd one out. I'm not a big fan of the Davison era, but there we go.
Actually, it's a lot
I'll
of people.
forgive you this time. You're all right.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was quite refreshing to hear someone actually pick Davison as a favourite, because I think he is the one that most people find a bit in the middle, because they call him a bit beige, don't they? So it was interesting you picked Davison, and I like the fact you did, but I know what Mark means. It's the one that people don't tend to gravitate towards, because his Doctor is a bit, I don't know, he doesn't stand out as much as the others, I don't think.
Yeah,
but he is a great Doctor. I really like him as well, but
yeah, I don't know what it is about him. I just love the Peter Davison era of the show. I think sort of Tom Baker is brilliant. The Hinchcliffe years are brilliant, but I kind of start to zone out once you kind of get to the end of Leela's series. I sort of start to zone out of the Tom Baker era.
I know what you mean. I think that the dynamic between Tom and Louise, as much as I loved them, was not the same as Tom and Liz. They just had magic chemistry together, and I think it's well documented that Tom just wanted to travel on his own after after Liz left. So you can definitely see that, and then you get the Graham Williams era, which takes it into a slightly different direction, which is not as good. So yeah, I know what you mean. With the
exception of City of Death, I don't think I've ever been a fan of the Graham Williams era particularly, but I'm glad I could be, different then. I'm glad I could give a different...
That's cool. Yeah, that is
it was refreshing, yeah. It's always good to see Five getting a bit of love. I know Gary struggled with the Key to Time era, which I always, talking to Graham Williams, so... When we reviewed that, you found that difficult, didn't you?
Oh, man. Yeah, that was a bit of a... To be honest with you, it started off cool. It started off pretty decent, and then it picked up a little bit towards the end, but I found that a bit of a slog, I'll be honest with you. But we had to do it, though. We had to get it done and out the way, otherwise it would have been just one story every week, and it would have just... People would have been... By the end of, 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever, people would have been like, we're done with this podcast now. We can't go on anymore if you're going to be doing this forever. So we had to get it done out of the way. But yeah, it was cool. It was, but this is cool though, because normally on experience, when you've got a bunch of Who fans who especially into the classic era all together and talk about Doctor Who, inevitably it's normally Tom's era that comes up as the most popular and stuff. And you get some Troughton in there and, so this is great that you've all mentioned like Davison's era, McCoy's era, some of these more sort of non-popular, we don't really do lists, but eras and Doctors normally appear further down on people's lists. It's very, very cool. So,
and I think why I liked the fact that Jordan liked Five is because normally most people I know like the Fifth Doctor will be people who've grown up with him rather than people that are sort of newer to the show and have gone back and are watching the classics having never seen him before. I think a lot of people that do that don't tend to warm towards Peter. Like most people who like him, I think, are the people that grew up with him and he's like their Doctor. Whereas most people who have never watched classics who start watching them sort of gravitate towards Tom and McCoy as well, which is a surprise because obviously I was watching the McCoy era go out at the time, and Doctor Who, I mean, I don't remember anybody at my school watching it. I can remember like loving the McCoy era and desperately wanting to share it with like my, anybody, but none of my friends watched Doctor Who. It was the most uncool thing ever when I was at school. So it didn't have a very good reputation, the McCoy era, and it's lovely to see that now people who are, sort of grown up with the more recent series, going back and watching the classics and loving the McCoy era and seeing what I saw at the time, but couldn't convince anyone else, if you see what I mean. Which I had a little bit with you, didn't I, Gary? Because I remember when we first started doing the podcast, I remember that fateful day in the Copthorne Hotel, me, you, and Camsey at the bar, and Cameron McEwen, not a McCoy fan at all, and you and him were a bit like, I can't get on board with McCoy. McCoy. And I was like, no, he's brilliant. And thankfully, I don't know about Camsey. I don't know if he ever saw the light, but thankfully you've really, I think it's probably one of your favourite eras, isn't it?
It is now, mate. Yeah, I love it. I really love it's probably grown on me more than any other era of classic Who, I would say. Yeah. Okay, question for you guys then. Maria, can you hear us and all that stuff at the minute?
Yes, I can.
Good, right. Yeah. So let's start with you, Maria. Is there a Doctor that you prefer on Big Finish versus their TV appearances?
Well, I suppose because I haven't listened to a lot of Big Finish, I suppose I would have to say probably the Eighth Doctor. Only because he hasn't really had a lot of adventures on television. So I'm really enjoying when I kind of hear him on Big Finish, because I think it really expands his character for me. And, and I feel like I'm getting to know him, like a new Doctor. So for me, it's probably the Eighth. I do like Sylvester McCoy actually as well. I think he's been really good with Big Finish as well.
Cool.
And, I didn't dislike Sylvester's stories on TV because I appreciated the writing of them, especially towards the end of his era. But yeah, I'm really enjoying Sylvester and probably Paul McGann. And I did actually meet Paul McGann at where was it? I went up to. It was the Leicester Space Centre. So I met him, and he's such a lovely man.
He's a dude, isn't he? Yeah,
he is so cool. He was lovely when I met him, and he's good looking, so I can't complain really.
Jordan, any Doctor that you prefer on Big Finish?
I'm going to have to go with Colin Baker on that one. I think, his era on the show was so sort of like Adam said. So many people sort of fell away from the show with Colin Baker through no fault of his own. It was production side of it. But I think Big Finish because I think they gave him a bit more of a carte blanche to kind of do whatever he wanted to do. I think he's really grown and he's gone on. I think through Big Finish, he's become one of my favourite Doctors, whereas years ago I'd have said, he was right down the bottom. But no, I think he's really grown through Big Finish. And I think having, new companions like Maggie Stables as Evelyn, or one of my favourites, Miranda Raisin as Constance, it brings something out in him that you don't really see with Perry or Bonnie Langford. So I think he's probably my favourite on Big Finish.
Cool. Marky Mark.
Big Finish, it's McGann for me, because he was my Doctor, I guess, through Big Finish, because when Storm Warning came out, that was kind of new Doctor Who at that point for me.
Yep.
So I've kind of followed that range from the beginning to now. I do start to feel that through no fault of McGann, I think he's a fantastic Doctor and he brings so much to every performance, but I feel like we're getting to a kind of, I don't know, like it's constantly expanding and constantly expanding and constantly expanding, that because there's basically just a little 8-minute ending to his era, the Big Finish seem like just cram however many stories and arcs and all this kind of stuff into this kind of seemingly infinite but not infinite sort of time frame for the Eighth Doctor. And it does start to feel like, I don't know, maybe we've done everything with the 8th, which is sad to say, but I don't know. Maybe other people disagree, but I don't know.
Have you listened to Stranded, Mark, out of interest?
I did. I listened to it. I thought it was interesting. I think it did some interesting stuff. I think, was it Wild Animals or something? Is that the second one, the John Dorney one, which is essentially what is a Doctor Who story like in contemporary Earth with no monsters and actual human violence as the kind of threat. I thought was really interesting. But the problem I have with Stranded is the problem I have with a lot of modern Big Finish, which is this need to tie it up with Torchwood and to have Tom Baker in it as the curator. And also they don't have the guts to stick with this, we're going to strand the Doctor in contemporary Earth, because the next series he sods off to the 1970s and all this kind of thing. So
yeah,
it showed promise, but I'm starting to kind of be a bit skeptical towards it.
I know what you mean by that. I just want to quickly ask you as well. Like, I know you said you grew up in the wilderness years. So, what got you into Doctor Who? Did you start with Eccleston, or did you dive into Big Finish, or what was like your introduction to Doctor Who?
Because I've told this story quite a lot recently, I did toy with just making something up and say, oh yeah, I found a book in a charity shop, which isn't that far from the truth, actually.
Tell us the truth.
The truth.
We can handle the truth.
With the 92, 93 repeats on BBC Two, to be honest, that got me into it. My mum and dad. Because we used to always sit down in front of BBC Two on a Friday night and watch old telly, because that's where it was in those days. So we'd watch like Randall and Hopkirk and all that kind of stuff, and then Doctor Who came on. So I watched the Time Meddler. I really enjoyed it, but then kind of really got into it with the Mind Robber sort of 4 weeks later.
Oh yeah.
And then that was it, really. And then it's just kind of finding whatever I could find. So my mum would find sort of Target books, which are still behind me on the shelf here, in charity shops, and sort of saving up pocket money for videos and stuff like that. But it was only, I think, with the McGann movie that it felt like, oh, this is new Doctor Who for me. And then I think that from then on, that was it, really. Yeah. Sort of fandom-wise.
Good soundtrack.
But that didn't really feel like Doctor Who, though, did it? I mean, the movie, not really. I mean, there was
yeah, a lot of people say that, Maria.
Yeah.
But if you'd never seen Doctor Who, I guess as an introduction, that might have been, you wouldn't have known any different.
Well, this is it. And if you've seen bits and pieces of it, I think the fundamentals of Doctor Who are in that film. And I think that film gets a lot of flack. And rightly so. It's flawed. It's deeply, deeply flawed. But I watched it again a couple of months ago. And just had a great time. Mm-hmm. It's an Americanized version of Doctor Who. And I think, I don't know, I kind of start to kind of rub against that kind of isolationist view that Doctor Who should always be British. You know what I mean? It kind of limits it, I think, sometimes.
I think there's a lot going for the TV movie. I think it looks beautiful even now. I think the TARDIS exterior and the interior have never looked better. It's beautiful, and it's beautifully directed. If you rewatch it, it's really well shot. And like Gary said, the music in it is beautiful. McGann and Grace, McGann and Daphne work great together. There's a lot going for it. But like you said, it is flawed. Yeah, but then a lot of Who is flawed. Yeah. So
I always say Doctor Who's never been consistently good ever. I think, it's not always consistently good within the same story. But no, I think the McGann movie is Doctor Who for that kind of age of the X-Files and the television of the 1990s.
The next generation, like that kind of era of TV.
It's definitely of a piece with what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
Are you not a fan at all of it, Maria? The TV movie?
I agree with you, Adam, that I think it is very well directed and it does look actually great. I just find the tone of it, I can't really... I don't recognise it as Doctor Who that I know and love. I mean, there's bits of it that I recognise, but then I don't know. Maybe I need to rewatch it again, but the once or twice that I've watched it, I kind of didn't enjoy it by the end of it. So I don't know. Maybe I need to relook at it again, but I don't know. It's not my cup of tea. It's not what I know growing up. So maybe that's it. Maybe because it was kind of made and it was a bit more Americanized, I suppose. It didn't feel like it, like you said, it's not, I don't think it's meant to be something outside of Britishness, if that kind of makes sense. And it's kind of, it doesn't feel, yeah, you're right. I think what Mark says, it's something about it being a British show that kind of is part of its attraction, I think, you know, because it is British, and you know, and I think the Doctor is very much a British hero. It kind of, there's just bits in it that I just didn't really recognise probably, and didn't enjoy.
Well, it starts with the Doctor making a cup of tea. That's very British.
Yeah,
but that's
true.
I know what you're saying. There's a thing that's always, I mean, I like the TV movie, but the thing that's always annoyed me the most about it is that they couldn't be bothered to give it a title. They just call it the TV movie, and I think I really don't like that. I think it was going to be called something else.
The Enemy Within.
The Enemy
Within. They should have.
Title.
Yeah, they should have
But
stuck
it's
with
because
that.
it was a pilot, wasn't it? So it was a pilot for an American audience, so they just called it Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
And then obviously for a UK audience that's been watching Doctor Who for 33 years, they've gone, it's a Doctor Who movie. Please enjoy the Doctor Who TV movie, which is a shame. I think they should have called it The Enemy Within for a UK
better
audience, at least, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose it could have been worse in that they could have not been able to get Sylvester back, and, you know, maybe not had his regeneration. So, you know, I'm really pleased that we actually got a regeneration in there, and, you know, they were kind of true to that aspect of it, you know, unlike obviously with Sylvester and, you know, Colin Baker. So, you know, that was actually something really positive. It did actually kind of link in, if that kind of makes sense. So that was something I really enjoyed.
I was surprised they did that as well, because given that there'd been quite a gap between the series, you'd think they'd start it afresh and not reference it at all. A bit like with the Jodie era, we're doing a new thing now, and I am surprised they included McCoy. And although it's brief, I'm glad he's in it.
Well, it does link in subtly as well. So at the very end, in Survival, where he says somewhere the tea's getting cold. The opening scene to the TV movie is him making a hot cup of tea. So,
Yeah.
it's a subtle
It's
little
all there.
continuation if you look for it. Yeah, Jordan, what are your thoughts on the TV movie?
Do you know what? I really like the TV movie, but I think Mark and Adam, I think you need to both have a chat with my friend Scott, because he detests the TV movie with an
Really?
absolute vengeance.
Wow.
And it doesn't matter how many times I'm like, oh, but Sylvester McCoy's great in it. You know, Daphne Ashbrook is great in it. The TARDIS looks amazing. You know, this, that, and the other. It looks like it's had money spent on it.
It does.
Possibly for the first time in a long time.
In forever.
You know, someone had actually given Doctor Who some money to go and do something. But he absolutely hates the TV movie, and I just don't know why. But no, I really like the TV movie. But funnily enough, I was having a conversation with one of my other friends the other day about the TV movie, and I sort of was like, oh my God, do you know when the Doctor's wife and the TARDIS says, I never got you where you wanted to go, but I always got you to where you needed to go? And I was kind of thinking, but hang on, you dumped him in the middle of a, you know, downtown, wherever it is, and then you made him get shot, you know? So it's, I think out of everything about the TV movie, it's that I don't like, is his, you know, the Seventh Doctor just goes out, he's shot, and it's kind of like, okay. But then I guess it is America, so it could happen. But no, I like the TV movie. I really like the TV movie.
I find that really funny now watching it. I think at the time I was like, oh my goodness, Doctor Who has been gunned down by a gang. But now watching it, there is something incredibly funny about the Doctor landing on American soil and immediately being gunned down. As if to be like, it's a dangerous place. You don't want to go to America.
Yeah, not even Trump's America at the time either. Yeah, it's a lot of love for the. Do you know what? It's still to this day. It's I love talking about the TV movie because it's still a very Marmite issue to a degree. Like Jordan just said, his friend absolutely hates it. Adam and I, we know quite a few people that can't stand it, and conversely, there's people that do really like it as well. So I think it hovers around that grey area for me. It's like you were saying, Mark, that sometimes not everything about the show has to be British, quote unquote, I guess. And it definitely showed that. But I think for me, I think as long as the character remains British, and I don't care if that character's male, female, alien, whatever, as long as the character remains British. But I'm cool with like the rest of it, like being wrapped up in like a US kind of setting. That doesn't really bother me. But it's it definitely hovers around that. Do we include it in? Well, before Big Finish, I reckon people were like, is that proper Doctor Who? Do we include it in proper quote unquote Doctor Who? But I think Paul McGann has properly established that it's beyond question.
Adam and Gary and Maria, I don't know if you remember. I distinctly remember when Eccleston came in, there was some chat about, they're going to just ignore the McGann film, and it's going to just this is just it's a new start. They might just kind of ignore that, and it wasn't until I can't remember exactly where it's kind of. I think Russell T probably mentioned it in an interview and was just saying, no, this it's Paul McGann, then it's Chris Eccleston, and that's how it's going to be. But I do remember there's been some chat whilst they were making it, coming out of like fan gossip sites and all this kind of thing, that they were going to just ignore McGann like it never happened. And really all we get is just that gag about half human blasphemy in the Bad Wolf Partner of the Ways.
I can remember even Paul McGann doubting himself actually right up until the night of the Doctor. I remember him saying in an interview that he now can officially say he's canon, and I'm thinking, of course you're canon, Paul. You've done all this amazing stuff on Big Finish. You've done the movie, but even himself, he didn't feel until he was actually in the series in that little 7-minute episode that he was sort of made official. Which I think I'm glad they did that, but I just can't believe he felt like that he didn't. He was so.
Well, that I think that's why he took such a long time to do conventions as well, because he felt that he'd kind of failed. He'd been this one night only Doctor, and it kind of never went anywhere. And people were asking him to come to conventions, and he was a bit like, "Well, I'm not really the Doctor, am I? I did like one night." And I think it was I can't remember when his first convention was, like 2001, something like that, I think. And he got this rapturous applause when he comes out on stage. And it was just like, oh, right, okay, yeah, people do actually really want to see me because I'm Doctor Who. That's
on YouTube
nice.
Still, that clip somewhere.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So the TV movie then, a little bit Marmite, people's views on it can be a bit controversial for that very subject, that very reason of do they consider it to be, even though it's technically and definitely is canon and everything, it's a bit controversial and stuff. Let's fast forward in time a little bit. Let's go forward to modern Doctor Who. We have to talk about it, the most controversial thing to come from 2005 onwards. It happened very recently. So, Jordan.
Yep.
The Timeless Child. Concept, theory, paradigm. What are your thoughts?
No, it's one of those. When I watched it, when it originally, I say originally went out, when it came out sort of February time, I was like, okay, it's fine, because the Doctor, we didn't really know much about the Doctor anyway. So I kind of was looking at it through that lens. But then the more I've actually sort of been like, nah, let's actually think about this, the more I've been like, no, I don't like it. I don't know what it is. I think what irritates me the most about it is the Doctor now comes from a different universe. I'm assuming. I think that was the biggest thing that bugged me about it. I think it would have been better had it been the Master, perhaps, or been. I know my friends are always saying, "Oh, it should have been like Rassilon or Omega."
Yeah, I think Rassilon. Yeah,
I think Rassilon would have probably worked a lot better. So I'm going to have to say I don't like it, but at the time I didn't mind it. It was just bizarre. I don't know. Maybe that's the whole thing about it. It's just bizarre. It's there. It'll probably be like the TV movie. It'll be something in like 20 odd years time will still divide you fans, and it'll be kind of like one of those hot topics that no one ever really talks about, but it's kind of like there,
Like the half-human thing.
Yeah, it's sort of it's there, but we choose to ignore it. But it's, if you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. But it is what it is, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, no, Regia. We had a very similar thing going on ourselves. So when we reviewed, on this very show, when we reviewed that episode, at the time, I remember vividly saying, "Oh, this was pretty cool, actually." It's like they've taken this very, not stagnant, but this very sort of samey setup that we've been running with for nearly 60 years, whatever, and they've changed it up. They've thrown a curveball. This is very cool. And then about 3 or 4 days later, I just woke up. I was like, I don't like that. I don't like this. I don't like it. It was just a real weird sort of night and day difference. I just woke up thinking, oh God, why? Oh, I just don't like it. But yeah, Mark, what are your thoughts?
I remember watching it, just not ashen faced, but when something's supposed to be big and huge and earth shattering and changes the very way you think about the show, I found The Timeless Children to what it essentially was the Master reading the Doctor a New Adventures novel written by Mark Platt for about an hour. I have no real issue with the idea of The Timeless Children and the Timeless Child idea and the Doctor possibly coming from another universe, because I think Doctor Who needs that. It needs this kind of new universe to explore and these new ideas. The problem I have is that it's just so boring to watch. It's not the Doctor discovering it, it's the Doctor being told it, which basically is a get out clause, because then you can just turn around and be, the Master was lying. It didn't really happen. So that's a kind of this. It's a wider issue I have with the Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker era. Is there's no confidence in it. I don't feel any confidence in what they're doing. Stephen Moffat used to mess stuff up, and sometimes for good, sometimes for ill. But he was confident in the way he did that, and you felt that production was behind him all the way in what he was doing. Like the actors were up for it. The directors, the producers, everything about that production was like, yep, all right, cool. This is what we're doing. John Hurt is the Doctor. Brilliant. This, I don't know. It just... Say, the Doctor's from a different universe and can just keep regenerating, and there was maybe some incarnations before him. Is that okay? Do you like that? No, or you don't like that? Or maybe we'll just keep that on the back burner. And the problem I also have is I can't help but feel this is something that could just reinvent the show going forward for 20 years. We could be playing around with this. But I can't help but feel the anniversary is 2 years away. And are we just going to find where the Doctor came from in the 60th anniversary special, and then that's the end of it? I don't know. I don't know what the plan is.
The Chibnall master plan.
Yeah.
But it's a 5-year Chibnall master plan.
I know what you mean, though. With the Moffat era, you definitely got the sense that if you were a fly on the wall at the BBC office or whether the office where he was writing stuff, he would just stagger in and kick the door open, absolutely wasted, with a bottle of wine in his hand, and slam the script down and be like, this is what we're rolling with. And the execs are like, whoa. He's like, no, this is what we're doing. Whereas Chibnall's like, have a look, see what you think. I'm open to suggest. You do get the sense the Moffat and RTD definitely, they just drove it this is exactly what we're doing, and if people don't like it, meh. We won't see you at the next signing event, whatever that is. If you do like it, then sweet, we'll see you there. Whereas Chibnall's like,
it does sort of make me wonder: would the Timeless Child arc have worked better if it had been written by Russell T Davies or Stephen Moffat? Because I do sort of no. I was just wondering, because I do sort of think I agree with you. They were kind of like, do you know what, we're going to do it, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. Whereas Chibnall is a bit sort of like, ooh, we're going to do it, but if you don't like it, it's fine. But okay, we'll forget
also,
that.
Also, Stephen Moffat kind of already did it with the War Doctor. Really, it's fundamentally that's what this is. It's just introducing an incarnation of the Doctor you never knew before. And that's another issue I kind of have, is that it just feels like a greatest hits package at the moment. There's just this kind of straight line of just perfectly serviceable Doctor Who that isn't going to scare the horses. And And I feel like the Timeless Children should have done that, and I wish it had. And it's really just the same old frothing imbeciles on the internet that are getting annoyed about it. And everybody else is just like, I'm not really a fan of it, or, oh, this is an amazing step forward. Mm-hmm. It's not, but I mean, there has been a global pandemic in the middle of it. So that's, I mean, probably more important and taking up a lot of people's time. So we don't have time to properly argue about Timeless Children. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it could have been a lot more earth-shattering and interesting.
Yeah. Maria, I sense you're not a fan.
Well, I didn't watch the episode live. I watched it after everybody else, and I remember texting one of my friends and saying, well, you know, what was it like? Was it good? You know, what was the conclusion? And they were a bit umming and ahhing around it. So I kind of went into it kind of wondering what the revelations were going to be, because in my head I probably had something completely different to what ended up on screen. And I kind of agree with what Mark was saying in that, in some ways, because Jodie was quite passive in the episode, I didn't kind of believe it when it all came out. You know, Sacha Dhawan was kind of firing on all cylinders, and I was kind of looking at him and his performance, and, you know, he's telling this great story about what her history is. And for me, I really didn't like the idea. If I'm honest, no, I don't like it. I don't like the idea of kind of losing Gallifrey as a base that kind of rounds the Doctor. I mean, kind of, if it was another character, I probably would have kind of gone with it a bit more. But yeah, I don't really like it as an idea. I don't like the idea of kind of losing all that Gallifrey history that we have, because I think we have lost it by kind of introducing this new element to the Doctor. And kind
I like it more now then.
You like it more? Yeah.
I just, but then part of me is also just like, I think I find a lot of Doctor Who mythology episodes quite dull, really. I think I'm always kind of more drawn to the Doctor just shows up and, you know, solves the problem. So
McCoy.
On the one hand, I was like, oh, great, we don't have to go to Gallifrey anymore. But then also I was like, yeah, but you could just not go to Gallifrey anymore. You don't have to keep blowing it up and, you know, going, right, that's it, no more Gallifrey. Just ignore it.
I quite like the idea of the Doctor kind of kicking back against, you know, how snobby and kind of stuffy the Time Lords are, and I kind of quite like that idea. I think I've always enjoyed those adventures where he's kind of, you know, kicking against all of that, but kind of changing the origin of where the character comes from. So, you know, after 50 years of history, kind of feels a bit kind of, it feels like a tagged on idea, if that kind of makes sense. It's not something that's been thought out, you know, unless, you know, obviously going forward, it's going to be really well explained. And, you know, kind of making the Doctor kind of the creator of the Time Lords is something that, you know, kind of takes away from the kind of rebel that he is. I don't know. There's just something that changed the character fundamentally for me. Mm-hmm. You know, changing that backstory and kind of introducing all these multiple past incarnations that we don't know anything about, that, you know, do we care about them really? Mm-hmm. And, you know, I know people were talking about the faces in the brain of Morbius and some of that, and, you know, explaining some of those faces that came up. You know, and sometimes I think it would have been better, rather than going backwards and kind of changing the past history, is kind of going forwards would have been better, and kind of introducing maybe a different kind of element going forwards. I mean, essentially, we've gone backwards because we're kind of looking back into his origins, into the character origins. I keep saying he, but he, she, we're going back into their origins, and it's kind of going backwards rather than going forwards.
It's definitely a bit of a snake eating its own tail, isn't it? Like, it's just...
Yeah, I mean, Doctor Who is about... The reason that kind of drew me into Doctor Who originally was it was the idea of adventure, you know, getting in the box and going anywhere and kind of doing anything, and kind of introducing the Timeless Children is, it's not something that I think I wrote about it in one of my articles, but yeah, basically I don't like the idea, but I'd be interested to see what they do with it, if they do anything with it going forwards, or whether it's something that will kind of get forgotten about. I don't know.
You're the same, Matt, really. Yeah.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It depends where they go with it, I think. So he's put it out there, he's planted the seed. What's he going to do with it? Because like you said, when we reviewed it, we were fairly positive at the time. We said, oh, that's pretty good, actually. It kind of worked, but something new takes it into a new direction. But then, like you, I sort of woke up a few days later, same thing. And it just gradually chipped away at me. Things started to annoy me. Like when I was watching classic episodes, you'd see, or even Tennant, it's like coming doing that brilliant speech. I'm from Gallifrey, Time Lord Victorious, all that. You think, yeah, that's kind of all just gone out the window. And I don't know, it definitely changed things. And I don't think it needed doing. I think that's the thing. It didn't really add anything. But that's what I mean. We need to see where it goes. But at the minute, it hasn't really added anything, I don't think. And I would have quite liked it if it had turned out to be Susan. Because I think Susan's a fascinating character that kind of just gets completely forgotten about. The Doctor's granddaughter. So I would have quite liked the Timeless Child to have turned out to be her. But I have to agree with Mark as well. I think they thought it was going to be a lot more earth-shattering than it was. I think they thought this was going to, be a real big OMG moment. But the reason it wasn't is because there was no twist. Like, I kept thinking it was just predictable. All the way through, you kept thinking, yeah, it's going to be, the Doctor's going to be the Timeless Child, isn't she? Yes. It gets revealed, the Doctor's the Timeless Child. You're right, okay, come on, there's got to be a twist in this. That can't be it. He's going to turn around and it's going to be the Master, or he's going to be lying to her, or something. No, there was no twist. There was no imagination to it. It was just, no, it's the Doctor. Oh, okay. So, yeah, it really depends where they take it, I think. Maybe there will be a twist to it, or maybe they'll just forget about it. I don't know. But I'm like you, Gary. I've grown to really not like it. And, well, I don't hate it with a passion like some, but the thing I don't like about it is all these other Doctors that are out there. I don't know why, but that's the bit that really bugs me. Like, anybody could be the Doctor. That's just stupid. There could be a million Doctors out there. I just don't like that whole thing.
Mark, go on.
I don't mind it if you're going to do something absolutely nutso, like Into the Spider-Verse, but a Doctor Who version. But the BBC could never afford to do that. And I think it would always just end up being a slightly disappointing series of novels, like Time Lord Victorious, or, something like that. And that's the thing with Doctor Who. It's always kind of hampered by the fact it's on the BBC, I feel like. Yeah,
I was talking about this with somebody else at the weekend, and they said, we were talking about the license fee, and we were saying the only one thing that my friend watches on the BBC, I can't remember what it was, and it's like, why do I have to pay like 100 odd quid a year just to watch this one channel, this one program? You know how it goes. And I said, yeah, but Doctor Who and all the rest of it. And they were like, look, the best thing that can happen to Doctor Who is for it to go to Netflix, and for those guys to throw more money at it, give it more. I don't know. My view is that they should just, after the 60th, just stop it, just cancel it for a few years, take it over to Netflix or something, and just let somebody. Because if you look at shows that do really well on Netflix, it's because they've had the time to put a decent writing team together. They can throw a little bit more money at it, all that kind of thing, and nurture it a lot more, rather than. It just feels like the BBC is just this, I don't know, like it feels like it's shackled to what was once this amazing corporation years ago, and, a lot of love for it. It just, I don't know, it feels like, yeah. But for me, the Timeless Child thing, I was gobsmacked that they didn't pick up on it more in the festive special, because they made this huge thing of it, and it was such a massive. It has the potential to be such a huge change of direction for the show and for the character and everything, and changes everything up, rightly or wrongly. And then apart from one scene where the Doctor's talking to somebody about it, about change, it doesn't get good, Gary. Yeah, it doesn't even get mentioned. Not even gets mentioned, and this only happened previously in the Doctor's timeline. Really?
Well, it's also the Doctor just turns around and says, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm the Doctor. I defeat the Daleks. And it's like, right, okay, so is that it dealt with?
Exactly, yeah. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Well, she did have 20 years in prison, so I suppose she kind of got over it, I suppose.
well, yeah, I suppose, yeah. But it was weird, though. I thought they were going to continue it and make more of a thing, because if you're going to introduce something as epic as that changes the entire concept of the character, essentially, then I don't know, it was just a bit like, are we brushing this under the carpet already? Is this are we doing
Paradigm
this?
Daleks all over again?
Yeah.
But to turn it around a little bit, is there anything that you guys particularly like about the Chibnall/Jodie era? Maria?
Oh, you put me on the spot now.
You can say no. It's cool if there's nothing that you put.
I tell you what, when I saw the first episode, the woman that fell to earth, I kind of noticed the change in tone kind of immediately. Obviously, Chibnall has wanted to introduce something different, and I suppose I did kind of like the fact that he kind of changed it up and the tone was slightly different. It kind of felt a bit more gritty and a bit more down to earth. I don't know what the word is, but I quite like that. I think if I was to like one thing, it is probably, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of something. Come back to me, because I can't think of anything at the moment. Not that I really, really like. I mean, Bradley Walsh is brilliant.
Okay.
I really liked his character, but I didn't really like Series 11 that much. I enjoyed Series 12 a bit better. I mean, there were some better stories in Series 12.
Okay.
There were some, standout ones that I really enjoyed. So, but I haven't consistently enjoyed a series all the way through. I can't think of anything in particular that I really like, and I think it's probably well known that I'm not really a fan of Jodie that much, to be fair.
All right, no worries. Jordan, anything that you like about our current era?
Well, Bradley Walsh was definitely one.
Mm-hmm.
Dare I say it, I think he probably outshone Jodie Whittaker quite a bit. And I agree with some of the things that Adam has said when you've been reviewing this last series. I think they've kind of tried to sort of not have his character in it quite so much because he was so good.
Yeah.
And the thing I really wish they'd have carried on, because I really liked it, was, like you said, Maria, there was a grittier tone to her first story, but then it kind of that went away, and I really liked that grittier tone of it. But apart from those two, there's not really. I liked Sacha Dhawan's Master. I thought he was really good. But apart from those three things, I don't know. I really struggled to put my finger on what her Doctor is, and I think that's the writing possibly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, those three things: Bradley Walsh, the grittier tone for the first story, and possibly Spyfall. I think Spyfall was quite a good start to this last series. And Sacha Dhawan as the Master. I think, for me, they're probably the best three things in it.
Yeah, I'd agree with Jordan. I think I really enjoyed Spyfall. I thought it looked fantastic, and I kind of thought that was the kind of tone we were going for. It was kind of a bit more playful, and and it looked fantastic as well. Obviously, the effort that they take to go on location, so it looked really good, and I liked the more playful kind of nature of it, and I like the pace of it as well. But it's not been consistent all the way through. I think it's been very up and down with her series, and I think there is something about Jodie that just doesn't. It's not. She's not as strong enough foil against Sacha Dhawan. He's actually a really strong character.
Yeah.
When he's in the scene, you're watching him rather than watching her. And, but yeah, I'd agree. Sacha Dhawan was actually a highlight. He's actually been a highlight for Series 12, definitely.
Yeah.
Mark?
I think I prefer Series 11, to be honest. I think Series 11 was very clearly trying to do something different, whereas as I think Series 12 was just like, oh, maybe people didn't like that, let's just try and ape the RTD Stephen Moffat model. Because I think 11 had 3, I think, pretty solid historical adventures, one of which I think is an absolute masterpiece, which is Demons of the Punjab. And then it also had the Witchfinders, which I think is so great, and it goes, well, actually, what does it mean for the Doctor to be a woman in a historical setting? Mm-hmm. Which the show doesn't do again and hadn't done up to that point. And I thought it was really interesting, and it's got Alan Cumming in an absolutely scene-chewing performance. So, I think 11's got a lot going for it. It's got a frog in a chair. Love that. That's great as well. Yeah. Whereas Series 12 just felt like a lot of stuff I'd seen Doctor Who do before. So, yeah, I think that kind of focus on more historical adventures. I kind of wish they'd had the guts not to fling in a monster in some of them, But there we go. That's, I guess, Doctor Who in the modern world. People are so used to it having monsters and aliens that to do a straight historical like in the 60s would scare people a little bit. Is this what Doctor Who on a Sunday night is? Just swanning around in historical settings? Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, true. No, read you. And then, okay, so spin-offs. Let's talk about the best one of all. What did you think to Class?
Oh, why are you bringing that into it?
Joking. Let's talk. So, from your guys, you can talk about Class if you want to. I think anyone that's listened to our show for a while will know when we reviewed those episodes that we probably don't want to talk about them again. But in terms of Sarah Jane and Torchwood, are you guys up? Are you here for the spin-offs? You like those, or are you a bit like, take them or leave them, Maria?
Well, I've watched a fair few of the Sarah Jane adventures, and I really like those. I think they, they're definitely, well thought out, well acted stories. So I really enjoyed Sarah Jane adventures, and also I really enjoyed series 2 and 3 of Torchwood as well. Not so much with 4, but I've definitely enjoyed those. I mean, who doesn't love Captain Jack? So I'm really happy with those, and I do fling them on from time to time as well. So
cool. Ad, we love Sarah Jane, don't we? It's been a highlight.
Sarah Jane is an absolute highlight. I can't believe that I didn't watch it at the time as we're going through them. It's just such a brilliant series. The whole tone of it, just managing to get that tone right every single week pretty much is quite something. It's just a lot of fun. Love the Sarah Jane. Whereas Torchwood, like you said, it's hit and miss, isn't it? Some weeks it's good, and then next week's it's like, who's writing this? It's a disaster. But Sarah Jane, it's just consistently just brilliant and fun.
Yeah. Mark, any thoughts on the spin-offs?
I think Charlie Brooker said it best when he was reviewing Sarah Jane Adventures and Torchwood back when they kind of came out, and he said the Sarah Jane Adventures is a children's show, written for children but also for adults, whereas Torchwood is an adult show written by children. And I really kind of
that's spot on, really. Isn't it?
The first 2 series, there's a real kind of juvenile quality, like a kind of, we're the grown-up Doctor Who show and we can say bad words and show bums and that. And I think it really gets, some of these sort of bigger sci-fi ideas get lost in just that kind of need to fling in a sex scene here and there and all that kind of thing. I sound very prudish. That's not me, but I just think the show... you can do sex on television in an adult and interesting and character building way, and that was never present in Torchwood as far as I can see. Sarah Jane for me, I think is just wonderful. it was so great to see Liz Sladen just get that kind of last hurrah. I mean, obviously it was never intended as that. It's just, sadly, just that's how events ended up going. But to kind of just cement Sarah Jane Smith in like the hearts and minds of a new generation of children, and I think she will continue to do that. As people who grew up with the Sarah Jane adventures will pass that on to their kids, and so on and so on. I think it's beautiful, and they're just really cracking stories as well.
Yeah, defo. Jordan, you fan of these spin-offs?
I am. I'm kind of, I don't know. I grew up watching Sarah Jane and Torchwood. They were, in many ways, I've got more vivid memories of watching them than I have Doctor Who. Sarah Jane in particular, I vividly remember watching certain stories of Sarah Jane. So Sarah Jane, Clyde, Rani, I saw myself in them growing up. So Sarah Jane, I definitely love. And I think they are right. There is something there that, I'm 24 years old, but I will happily sit there and watch the Sarah Jane Adventures. It doesn't bother me that it was designed to be a children's show. Torchwood, the first series of Torchwood, I don't remember watching live. And I'm not a massive fan of that first series. It's so uneven. But the second series I remember watching live and thoroughly enjoying it. But again, it kind of doesn't really come into its own until Children of Earth. And then for me, probably the less said about Miracle Day, the better. But there are some moments in Miracle Day that I remember, and they were so horrific that they've scarred on my memory. I will never forget. There are a few characters that die in Miracle Day. I will never forget that. Class, I liked Class, dare I say it, but it was no Sarah Jane Adventures, and it was no Torchwood. And personally, I think K9 and Company was probably better than Class.
Definitely.
100%.
Do you know what? I've got such a soft spot for K9 and Company. I love it so much. It's so bad. But no, I've always loved Sarah Jane and Torchwood because I grew up with them. They were the characters that I grew up with. To me, Captain Jack and Gwen Cooper and Sarah Jane were as much a part of Doctor Who as the Doctor was, as Rose Tyler was, as Catherine Tate was. So no, I love them. I love them.
Cool.
So glad you mentioned K9 and Company.
Oh.
It's brilliant.
I thought Gary was going to glaze over it.
Yeah.
I think what's amazing is the amount of output that we actually got during the RTD era. Because obviously we had the Sarah Jane Adventures, we had Torchwood, we had Doctor Who, and I kind of miss that now because it feels like there's a time for us to get another spin-off, but I don't know what it would be. I know recently they were talking about maybe having an Ace spin-off.
Yeah, the Charitable Earth thing,
which would have actually been
amazing.
A really good idea. Yeah, I think so.
And the Joe Jones, they were saying about doing it like a Joe Grant spin-off, weren't they? Which would be great. You could have Ace and Joe together. That'd be absolutely amazing.
That was going to be my next question to you guys, actually. Do you think we're due or should have another spin-off of some kind, or have we got our hands full enough with the show at the minute?
Do you know what? I think, I don't know if you guys have seen it, Russell T Davies recently said that he thinks Doctor Who should kind of have an MCU kind of vibe about it. And I kind of agree with him. In the Jodie Whittaker era, there was, between her first and second, there was a gap of like a year or something, wasn't there? A year and something. The way this year's shaping up, we're probably not going to get Series 13 until next year, probably. So yeah, I think there needs to be something else in between, just so that fans and people have kind of then got something to watch. Because I'm just a little bit worried Doctor Who's going to be one of those shows that gets forgotten.
I think it is in danger of that, Jordan. I think people are losing interest.
Yeah, and I think that's such a shame because there are so many good messages and so many good stories and things that can be told, not necessarily just in the Doctor Who thing, but Sarah Jane did things on homelessness and things like that. There are so many good stories to be told that Doctor Who kind of needs another show to do that nowadays, I think. And you could stick the spin-off on something like Netflix and get millions and millions of viewers. So
are we saying that Ryan and Graham should get their own spin-off because they got their psychic paper?
Let's not go to extremes here. I'd happily watch a Bradley Walsh spin-off show, but
yeah.
Well, that's already on there. It's called Breaking Dad. Have you seen that?
I don't think we're going to get a spin-off. And certainly not at the current... and I don't mean coronavirus. I mean just in the way the show's kind of viewed. I think the way the show... It feels like the way the show's viewed in the BBC at the moment is it's a reliable ratings hit. It gets roughly about kind of 4 to 5 million a week. That's fine. That keeps them taking over. It's not that kind of big blockbuster hit that it used to be, back when David Tennant was the Doctor or, around the 50th. It would have been interesting, I think, but because I know Stephen Moffat, because he decided to also do Sherlock, it would have been interesting if, say, he hadn't done Sherlock, would we have got a kind of spin-off series launched within that kind of 50th period? And I wonder what that would have led to. But it probably would have been a River Song series or something like that.
Or the Paternoster Gang or something.
Yeah, like that. It would, but I think, to be honest, Big Finish, isn't it? That at the end of the day, if you want your favorite Doctor Who character, hear some more adventures from them, the chances are Big Finish have the license and they've already released 4 box sets of it.
True.
And I think that's kind of it now. I think because BBC Worldwide are so aware the Doctor Who fans will buy all this stuff. I think that's why Time Lord Victorious came out. It's in the old days you might have actually seen that as some kind of TV event, but actually what it is it's just an excuse to sell some books and some action figures and a couple of Big Finish audios. It's kind of a worry Doctor Who's kind of ghettoized now into fandom and just regular viewers rather than this kind of big ratings grabbing hit that people tune in for every week, because those things still exist. You look at the ratings for Line of Duty when that's on. Shows like that still pull in massive numbers, and I think Doctor Who could do it, but I think it needs maybe a bit of a rest and then kind of bring it back all guns blazing. I don't know.
Yeah,
probably
agreed.
needs a change of actor in the lead role for it to kind of come back with that kind of popularity that you're talking about.
I don't think it's a problem with the actor. I think it's a sort of top to tail production issue, really. I think Jodie Whittaker's a fantastic actor. I just think some of the material as the Doctor has just been quite lacking. It all just feels kind of second draft.
Chibbers,
some of the story writing,
Chibbers.
Anyway.
All roads lead back to Chibbers. Yeah.
It's amazing how quickly things change, though, because I was watching, like, the 50th Steelbooks just come out. I was watching the 5-ish Doctors earlier before this, just to get myself in the mood, and I was raw. It's so much fun. It's just so much fun, and it's brilliant. And you've got Moffat in there just sending himself up, and I love the Moffat. Yeah. Despite all his flaws, I love Moffat. but then after that on the disc, you've got the Doctor Who proms at the Albert Hall, and so it drifted onto that, and I was watching a bit of that, and you see Matt Smith on stage, and I was thinking that, this really was a golden era of Doctor Who, and it's only natural that things are going to go up and down over time. It's just going to be that way. It's the same with everything, but it would be nice to think that we could at some point go back up to those days, because, like the conventions, me and you, Gary, went to the Doctor Experience at the XL. Was it a weekend or a day? I can't remember.
The festival. That was a day, I think,
Yeah, we had a fantastic time. They had all the props there. They had people on stage blowing up stuff, and you got McCoy falling off a sofa, and just brilliant days. And we do seem to have drifted quite far from that quite quickly But as I said, it's a natural thing. Every TV show, especially something like Doctor Who that's been on for this amount of time, nearly 60 years, it's gonna go up and down and have blips. And I do feel like we're in a bit of I wouldn't say a blip, it's a lull, and there are still a big chunk of people out there that are enjoying it, but it's definitely not the heyday that it was not that long ago. But I hopefully we'll get back to those days, because watching that proms earlier, I tell you, just is so good. And the music, Murray's music, I was thinking, man, we had it good. And we still have we've still got all the elements there. And the thing with the Doctor Who is the kind of show where you can literally do anything with it. I mean, this show could go on forever because there are no limits to it. It's not like EastEnders, where every week they're just killing someone off because they haven't got any other storyline. What can we do? Oh, let's get rid of someone that's been in the show. Doctor Who, you can literally, is infinite in what you can do with it. So this show can run forever, but it's probably going to need these little dips and little breaks just to, like we need sometimes. We need a break for the podcast just to get those energy levels back up, stand back, see what's working, what's not working, and get it back on track. And it will happen, and there will be people screaming at me saying it isn't off track, but you know what I'm saying. It's not the heyday that it was around the 50th.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a 5-ish Doctors. I mean, talking about spin-offs, that's the spin-off I want to see.
It's so much
It's a
fun.
series of that. And with the success of Staged, I kind of hope that, they're just like, well, to launch a little 5-ish Doctors style sitcom off the back of Staged, because it'll be the same production people, George Tennant and all that. That'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. Yeah, talking of spin-offs, I think for me, I was spoilt quite a lot by the trailer that they put out for the Blu-ray collection, the first McCoy one. Where it had Sophie Aldred up in the tower. The way that was filmed in London. I think
Bonnie
she was
Langford, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, you were Sophie Aldred. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I think it was it season 21?
26, wasn't
26,
it?
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way it was filmed, it had surprisingly for a trailer, just for something like that, it had a really what looked like a good production budget, because you had like drone shots around the Shard and all that, and the way that she looked, like she just hasn't lost it as Ace, even at this age, and she's not old, but even at that age, she hasn't. I don't know. There's just something. So to have an Ace spin-off after all these years, I think would be. And I think she would have that Sarah Jane-ish kind of feel about her as well. I think you'd have a lot of teenagers that would warm to her as well. So
yeah,
I'm down
100%.
for a Sophie Aldred.
She was supposed to be in the Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yeah.
Ace. The end of series 5, her and Joe were supposed to turn up.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
It is a shame that it never got made, really. But otherwise, we would be talking about an Ace spin-off.
Yeah.
All five of us have got this kind of glassy-eyed, like, if only.
What could have been?
Okay, so I was going to finish on the, what we felt like our future for Doctor Who was going to be. I think we've answered that to a degree. I mean, for me personally, like I said earlier, I think we should run it to the 60th, just because my OCD wouldn't allow that otherwise. To run to the 60th, and then, it pains me to say it, but I think the show does need a bit of a rest, even if it's just for a few years, and then come back with a bang sort of thing. But what do you guys think about what should happen? Do you think we should run past that and just keep going and just hope for the best, or what do you reckon, Maria?
Well, I definitely would like to see it go up to the 60th. I suppose I'm a bit worried if they take it off that it won't come back again. I'm not sure if, Chris Chibnall is going to leave it in good shape, and obviously whether he's still going to be around for the 60th, who knows. But, a rest could probably do it good, but then who would we have as a showrunner to bring it back? We'd need somebody of kind of an RTD kind of status really to kind of bring it back again. But yeah, definitely up to the 60th. I'd be interested to see what they do with the 60th, whether it's going to be, some kind of celebration of what's been rather than expanding on the Timeless Children story. But yeah, definitely up to the 60th. And I hope it does continue beyond that. I mean, obviously, if they do rest it, It would be interesting to see how it would come back at some point in the future. But I hope it continues, because I'm not quite ready to let it go yet.
No, I read you. Okay, Mark.
Hear me out. Films. I think it should move. I think it should try something else. It should, BBC have a film, production company, BBC Films. Why not, do a Doctor Who movie? I mean, it's not going to take on Marvel, but I think it would do some robust numbers, I think, especially now that we've had, 10 years, I think, of certainly that kind of more international audience. You watch that incredible special feature on Peter Capaldi's first series, the Blu-ray, where they're traveling to South Korea and Brazil and Mexico and meeting all these fans. I think there's, done right, I think a Doctor Who movie could be the sort of springboard to kind of reinvigorate not the show, I guess, because it would be a film, but the property, as it were, and do different things with it. That's what I'd like to see, I think.
They've talked about it for years, haven't they, Mark?
Yeah.
Remember Peter Jackson really wanted to do it, apparently, and Moffat wouldn't let him have it. It's like, no, you're not having it.
Was it David? I can't remember his name. The guy who directed the Harry Potter films. Is it David Haywood? No, David Haywood. He's an actor. But I can't remember his name. But he was
David Yates
for a while as well.
Yeah.
I just think there is something in it. I was talking to somebody the other day about how in the 90s, you couldn't, every time you picked up Doctor Who magazine, it was some other film studio was putting together a Doctor Who film pitch. And I was like, well, actually, I think it could work.
It could definitely work, yeah.
You might get it in the cinema as well. That would be cool.
Well, that would be the hope, and it becomes one of those kind of because, you look at Paddington, a much loved British property, given a feature film treatment, and it's, adored, worldwide, and made quite a lot of money. I think done right, a Doctor Who film could be incredible.
Yeah, cool. I'm up for that. Jordan, what do you reckon?
Definitely want to see it go up to the 60th. I think that would be a nice round number for them to kind of just leave it for a few years. And then I think it kind of needs someone to just come in and be like, okay, we're going to, for me, kind of strip it back to basics a little bit, kind of like Russell did with Rose. It's not so convoluted anymore. And just kind of, I don't know, breathe life into it again, which is kind of what I think it's been missing for me with the Chibnall era, is it's not got the same breath of fresh air about it. I definitely like to see a Doctor Who movie. Set
in America.
Yeah.
Has to be.
So long as Jodie Whittaker doesn't get shot or anything like that, it'll be fine.
Maria's like, don't know about that.
But yeah, I guess kind of just possibly giving it a rest for a couple of years and just seeing if that interest is still there in sort of a mainstream market like the BBC. And then possibly, if there is an interest but not there, Netflix or Amazon or a movie version of it, I'd be happy enough to sit there and see.
Yeah, cool. Okay, and then just a quick follow-up question on that. Would you like to see it rebooted rather than rebrought? Rather, when Eccleston came back, I remember reading in the newspapers, not that I was actively watching or into Doctor Who back then, but I certainly remember reading in one of the newspapers, I can't remember what it was, about, there was one article that said it was a reboot and it was going to do everything fresh from new. It wasn't going to look behind. And then another article that said, actually, no, it's a continuation. It's, it's all canon in one big thing. So would you guys want to see it rebooted, perhaps? Is that an option? Or has it got to honour everything for the last 60 odd years?
The format of the show allows it to do either, really, and you wouldn't notice the difference. I think, you know what I mean? You could just start a series with a new Doctor, not necessarily reference anything, and then just do what Russell T did. Just gradually bring in these elements.
Yeah, little breadcrumbs. Yeah,
for those people
Yeah.
that have been watching it for ages. I don't think you would have to do like a hard reset and have a mysterious traveler.
That's what I mean. That
just
kind
sort
of
of like
vibe.
explain like the whole thing again.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's what you do anyway with a new companion story, isn't it? So yeah, I think a reboot, but not a hard reboot.
Right.
Where you completely reevaluate what the show is. Although at the moment, I guess the show doesn't know what it is, and the character doesn't know who they are. So we'll see how that goes.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, and let's finish up. So last go round then. In terms of all of Doctor Who, from here we go. Yeah, here we go. From William Hartnell through to Jodie Whittaker. Which two Doctors would you love to see pair up? It doesn't matter if that actor has passed or not. Which two would you like to see team up in a story? Jordan.
Oh.
Come on, you can't think about it.
For some bizarre reason, the first two that came into my brain was Peter Davison and Sylvester McCoy.
Okay.
And I don't know why. They were just the first two that came into my brain. I don't know what the story would be. I don't know what anything about that would be, but I think those two, I guess I'd kind of like to see come back in some shape or form. And I mean, this last trailer with Bonnie Langford.
Oh yeah.
Sylvester McCoy still got it. He still looked great in that in the costume and things. So, and Peter Davison still looked like the Doctor when he was in Time Crash. So it's
doable. Yeah.
It's definitely doable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. McCoy and Davidson. Interesting. Ad.
I'd go with 7 and 11. I think McCoy and Matt would be hilarious together. And they're the two of my favourite Doctors as well. I think from the new era, Matt's just so good as a Doctor. I think he's my favourite. So, yeah, 7 and 11. I think they'd be a great pairing. And throw in Ace as well. Should be awesome.
Mark?
So if we're going to just take it from living or dead, the third Doctor and the 12th Doctor.
Oh,
I think
yes.
Just purely because I think it would be lovely for Peter Capaldi more than anything else.
Amazing, actually.
It would be one of those wonderful things that you get a sort of inkling of in Out of Time and in Time Crash of the actors playing the Doctor enjoying meeting each other. I think that'd be great. I know there's a comic coming out at some point that pairs the third Doctor and the 12th Doctor, but that seems like that happens every other week at the moment.
Yeah.
It's like a Doctor pair up. But yeah, I'd love to see the actual 12th Doctor and the third Doctor together in a televised adventure. That'd be great fun.
Yeah, cool. Maria?
Okay, so the first one that popped into my head was Sylvester McCoy. I think somebody just said that he's still got it as a Doctor. I mean, when you look at him, he's still got those mannerisms, I think, that would be really good. And also the 10th, I think, because I know David Tennant loves Doctor Who, so I think the two of them would be hilarious. They're both quite funny. So I'd quite like to see the banter between them. I think they would be quite fun.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. My mind changes up on this all the time, but I think at the moment I'd love to see David Tennant and John Pertwee together. I feel like there'd be a great chemistry there. With Pertwee sometimes he's a little bit impatient, a little bit, use out a nitwit sort of thing. I think he'd lose patience with Tennant's Doctor after a little while, and they'd have a bit of a to-do, but then it'd be great sort of team-ups and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd like to see those two. Yeah, do their thing, but... Right, that has been our round table with our amazing writing team. It's been great to have you guys on to waffle about Doctor Who. If we chose another day in the future or whatever, we could probably talk about Doctor Who and we could go on for hours. So it's been great to get your views on Doctor Who, albeit quite top. Like I said, we could talk about this stuff for hours. But so just to recap before we run the credits, just to recap. So Jordan, Maria, and Mark you can find their reviews and their articles and their thoughts on everything Doctor Who. These guys write about the current stuff, classic, Big Finish, the books, everything. You can read all of their stuff over on the website, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. And I know that you guys write for other websites and podcasts. So if you do, where can Doctor Who listeners find you elsewhere? Mark, you do another couple of podcasts, right?
Yeah, I do another Doctor Who podcast called On the Time Lash, in which myself and my good friend Ben Verth have a drink and chat about Doctor Who, because we want to recapture those pub meetings of the 1990s. So the basic format is we're working through the new stuff in order, and each week we'll pick a classic story that is either a perfect partner or an incredibly tenuous link, and we'll talk about both stories. So yeah, cool. On the Time Lash, you can find that in all the places you get your podcasts.
Sounds good. And Jordan, you write for a couple of other websites, right?
Yeah, I do the Doctor Who Companion. What I tend to do is sort of news articles for them, but I also do quite a few other different things for them. I used to write for Blog to Who, but I've not really done anything for them for a few years. And I also do a YouTube channel with my friends called Who's Watching, but we've not really done anything because it's a COVID world and we live in it, and it's, we like to do it where we're all together. but keep your eye on that channel if you're going to go on it, because there are some videos coming out at some point. And I write my own website as well called TARDIS Traveller Reviews, which is kind of just a bit about everything. It's not just Doctor Who, it's comics, it's other things on the telly. So
cool.
Yeah.
All good. And I believe Maria is exclusive to the Big Blue Box, I think.
I am.
Yep.
Yes, I'm exclusive to you guys.
Yep.
But, I'm open for offers.
No, you're not. You're not allowed. Exclusive to us, Maria.
And
you can never leave.
And as I mention every week, you all know about Adam's channel over on YouTube, which is The Geek's Handbag.
The man with a handbag.
The man with a handbag. He talks and reviews and unboxing, does all that stuff. So before we run the credits, I just want to say a big thank you to you guys for taking the time out of your evening to come and chat. Doctor, you are the nicest bunch of guys I could have on the website, and believe me, a lot of people ask to write for the website and do reviews and articles and stuff, but it's I have to make sure that the quality is there and the right people are writing for the website. So first of all, thank you for coming on, and also a massive thank you for putting the time in to write those reviews and articles and everything for us. It's great, and I know that a lot of our listeners read those as well, and I know that the guys over at Big Finish, they bring up your reviews a lot on their podcast and that sort of thing. So it's very, very cool. Very, very cool. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, and congratulations on the 300th episode.
Yeah, we'll have you back on in episode 600 to talk about whatever's going on in the world of Doctor Who. But I think we'll stick a pin in it there for episode 300. Thank you, everybody, for coming back for another week and listening to the show. Those of you that have just jumped on board, welcome. Long-time listeners, the Grizzled Ancients, welcome back for another episode. Next week, we'll be doing some episode review. I can't remember because I'm such a professional that I haven't got my schedule up, so I can't tell you. But keep an eye on the socials. We will let you know what we're going to be reviewing next week. And as is the theme for this week, as well as the celebratory 300, is to check out the website, to check out all of these guys' articles and reviews. bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can read all of that stuff there, plus you can listen to all of our previous shows on there. We'd also love to have you as a subscriber to the show, so whatever podcast app you get your podcasts on, just do a search for us or hit the link on the website. That way you won't miss a show when it lands every single Friday. We're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Again, links on the website, or just do a search for us. And we have a free Discord server as well, so sign up for that and come and chat Doctor Who with some other cool Doctor Who fans. Right, so to wrap up for 300, My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
My name's Maria.
My name's Mark.
And my name's Jordan.
And we will see you next time. Until then,